Yeah, affiliates,
Charlie, you can't take that risk.
Ascent.
No llores, vato.
Alright, but this time we gotta go down Brooklyn and Whittier.
Yeah. Home is what you make it. You can build and replace it. They can never really take it. Just as your soul is in it. We die when cease to living. So make the most. Celebrate with a toast for the simplest. Not a minimalist. I thank fate with a kiss. Destiny's ever bliss when I reminisce. I put a feel to it. Home is what you do to it. If you have each other, then you're too lucid. Not on a trip. The building blocks for a home before kids. Home is what is in us. This is for beginners. The woke listeners. A spoken quote to ever hearing us. Home is what you hear before the whispers. Before they spread your name, it means that it's sinister. That's the negativity outside of a home. If you're alive, then it's home. As long as your pride doesn't fall, what is home? Home is blessed, never suppressed. More or less, I'm simply dishing. Home is a place of free inhibition. Plant seeds for the future, watch it grow well and proper. What is home? It's life when it matters. Crew. Take my home away.
Peace, listeners. Welcome back. Today I got a special guest, the homie Naran. What's up?
Peace to the universe. What can I say?
Yeah. That's enough. No, nothing else needs to be said. All right. So what we getting into today? We're talking about.
What I wanted to speak on was the 6 cases that popped up in Wuhan and how their government is trying to combat that. So
yeah.
What they're saying is they got 2 weeks. They gave themselves 2 weeks to test 11 million residents. And it's a massive push to extinguish any remnants of the virus from the original epicenter of the global pandemic. So it just had me thinking, like, 2 weeks to 11 million people? Damn.
So they're just going to test a bunch of healthy people to make their numbers look decent.
Yep.
I got you.
So now they can fully write themselves off depending on what numbers show. Maybe they might lie, maybe they might tell the truth, but they might, should write themselves off. Okay, we got only 10 cases when it could be thousands.
Thousands, millions. It's 1 billion people in China.
Exactly.
I don't know how many people in Wuhan, though, what Wuhan is really, but I don't know, like...
11 million in Wuhan.
11 million people in Wuhan?
Mm.
Oh, they're going to test everybody in Wuhan.
Everybody in the epicenter.
Oh, so they're forcing people to get tested.
Yep, 2 weeks.
I got, somebody sent me a bill yesterday. HR quadruple 6, something like that. You heard about that? The bill. It's a bill being proposed, and it's like basically anybody who tests people, like at medical centers or in schools, mobile health, healthcare clinics and things like that, they get a grant from the government to do so. So it's basically encouraging people to, do more testing and things like that. And I don't know, like, I just take it as face value for now because it's like it's a bill. I don't know.
That's the thing. We can't take it as face value for now because that's how it always starts. Face value, then it becomes a whole major thing, and then it becomes more constricting.
Nah, what you saying, I get it, but I'm talking about not jumping the gun in terms of, it could become something sinister. Certain people could use it as a job opportunity, things like that. So, it could go one of two ways. Obviously, it's going to go the bad way too. But I'm not looking at it like, you know what I'm saying, like it's some kind of end game tactic or something like that right now. But I do see a push for testing. And actually, the name of this bill is TRACE, TRACE. It's an acronym. I forgot what for. But, I see that the trend for tracing people is being fulfilled in the United States, not dissimilarly from how it is in Korea where, you know, they track you by your phones and things like that. I could definitely see that happening, and this being kind of the foundation for tracking, you know, more directly with, you know, tracking people's phones and tracing people's phones and where they've been through, you know, via GPS and things like that. I could see that happening here. No problem. I could see that happening here.
Definitely. That's it. Probably already happening right now.
Yeah, it's happening, but you know, in terms of bringing it out into the open, you know what I'm saying? So that way they can do even more. If it's out in the open, they can do even more with it. Because I know that we're being, you know, surveilled and things like that. But anyway, yeah. So my thing is, what's up?
But what I was gonna say, since you know kind of finished that point, I just wanted to touch on another current update that 20 million Americans is still waiting for the stimulus checks. So that it had me thinking like, damn, bro, 20 million still without, yo, that's crazy, yo.
Yo, it's only $1,200. Yo, like,
exactly. So they should instantly get their money. That's
bruh, that's $1,200. Whatever, man. Like
that should buy like
that.
that was like a penny to them.
That's nothing. Let's be honest. Like $1,200. I actually got this. I got this. I guess you could call it a picture, and it just shows. You know, it says, "Look at our great country, stimulus relief fund," and then it shows Australia receives. You know, Australian citizens receive $19.93 a month. Canadians $14.33 a month. Denmark, citizens of Denmark, what is it? Danish, $32.88 a month. French, $75.75 a month. So on and so forth. And then the U.S., United States citizens get $1,200 to last them for 10 weeks. But these other countries, they get, you know, paid monthly for their major inconvenience.
For instance, which frustrates me when I contemplated, they took $2 trillion, right? And out of that $2 trillion, they gave us $200 billion. For that $200 billion, they really to go back into the pot of the $2 trillion. Initially, what are we getting to survive?
Nothing.
It's crazy.
Yep.
You took $2 trillion, but you only giving us 10% of that, 5%. No, it's crazy.
Gangster. You know what I'm saying? That's why, look, man, I don't know. A lot of people could just be shut up with $1,200. And it just bears saying, it is what it is. A lot of people, you'd be amazed how this is going to get swept over the rug. Just, I don't know. It's too much to process, really. It's just too much going on to process. But people trying to find equilibrium and normalcy. So I think people are still turning to the government for answers. I don't know. The government clearly shut down and just shit the bed, but people are still.
Yo, in certain places in the South and whatnot, they're so like how to phrase it without sounding disrespectful.
Good.
So back in the times that they gotta wait in lines still to try to claim their checks and whatnot. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Like no direct deposit?
Yeah, like either waiting in lines for the check or actual like food stamps and all that.
Wow, son.
When I saw that on what was it, news, I was like, damn, bro.
I don't know, son. It's like we're still in the past in a lot of ways, you know.
Especially when it comes to wages in those areas. They're so in the past, bro, it's brutal. Then not everything, but most things balance itself out where housing would be cheaper. And,
yeah, a lot of people moved to Georgia from New York.
You could buy a whole mansion-sized house for fairly like $300,000.
Yeah, but the downside to that is it's in Georgia. I'm not trying to move to the. Yeah, I'm not moving to the South.
You're gonna get around a lot of bate fish, but
exactly, son. Nah, I'm good. Georgia, son. Nah. Smell like feces over there. Yo.
All right. But fast forward on a sad but serious note.
Oh,
That Ahmaud Arbery case, bro.
yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, man. I don't know. My thoughts on that, I think it's sad. And I think that his killers need to be killed for any type of justice to happen. I think that anytime we get up in arms about anything, like, okay, the media, okay, Ahmaud Arbery, you know what I mean? The Charleston shooting, Trayvon Martin, and all the other cases of black people being killed either by cops or, white cops or,
This racist agenda.
yeah, you know what I mean? Just citizens, you know what I'm saying, who get let off the hook because they're white guys standing their ground or whatever, you know what I mean? I think that we should stop looking for justice. We should not be looking for justice in this system. And that people, if we're so angry, it doesn't show, you know what I mean? Like,
The thing is, the system was not built by us for us, so it never will work for us.
that's a fact.
So the frustrating part is that we fail to realize that.
The failure to realize.
If the roles were reversed, trust God. God willing, if the roles were reversed, they would have been true. They don't care, and they would have got away with it.
Oh, yeah. Imagine if some black people did a citizen's arrest on some Caucasian teen jogging, and then he was fighting for his life, and they killed him in cold blood, son.
Bro, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
bro.
you know what I mean?
They would have pillaged villages, bro.
So the way I feel is like we're too entrenched in this idea that they're untouchable. You know what I mean? Zimmerman is still alive for some reason, even though he's earned the ire of the entire black community. Somehow,
On top of that, selling memorabilia and all of that, bro.
you know what I mean? Rubbing it in. So somehow we get mad at each other over petty things, and a lot of times it erupts in violence or death, you know what I mean? But we as a nation of people, but nation of black people, anthology
Yeah,
series,
but
Tales from the Hood.
what they did was played I won't say a parody because it wasn't a joke. They played like what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not even getting it. But if you know Tales from the Dark Side, they did Tales from the Hood based on Tales from the Dark Side.
Okay. No, I never saw that either.
Oh my gosh! Wait, you think you wasn't raised in the '90s, bro?
I don't know what that is. It's a movie.
Tales from the Dark Side is a show. Bro.
Oh, so Tales from the Hood is a movie.
Tales from the Hood is the movie.
Got you. Nah, never. Nah.
And it showed it's like an anthology series, so it had different pieces within it. So one of them was you probably seen clips of it, but the voodoo dummy from around slavery time, slave souls got stuck into the dummy. So then the white guy that owned the plantation from his great grandparents, he was still mad racist, and those dolls took revenge, bro. They got very deep episodes in Tales from the Hood.
Son, from the 90s? I don't know where I was for that. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna look into that. No doubt, I'm gonna look into that.
They had a lot of famous people in it, and then when he started doing the flashback, he started seeing all the rap music that we was listening to. It was polluting our ears. So
you know what? That's what I'm talking about. Something like that. Basically, we need to be reprogrammed because I don't know. We discussed this earlier. When it comes to us, because the media projects us in such a way, we have no problem just basically with the imagery, the stereotypes that we have for each other, like just looking at each other like, like niggas ain't shit, things like that, you know what I'm saying? Like in a negative light type thing, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to white people, we don't even I think that we should encourage our children to counteract the negative imagery that they receive through the media. We should teach them to envision themselves at the top of the food chain and other people as second-class citizens, Caucasian people in chains as slaves. We should teach them that Caucasians are slaves. You know, the word slave, it shares a root with a Slav, which is a specific tribe of white people, because it generates from that same, it generates from a time period where they were in captivity and things like that. So you get the term because it was used to refer to that particular group of people in captivity. So that's why you get these two words sharing the same root. So we should teach them things like that. We should teach them things like Tales from the Hood, to see things in a different light, because the reality we have is only reality because we choose to interact with each other based on these symbols that we've been taught and that we're comfortable with interfacing with. So we're comfortable with interfacing with the idea of niggas ain't shit, bitches ain't shit, things like that, but we're not comfortable with interfacing with the idea that Caucasians are not infallible, that Caucasians, that whiteness is not to be preferred over blackness. We're not comfortable with interfacing with the idea of not being slaves, of waking up and not being under the oppression of a Caucasian dominant society. You know, we need more. We need images. We need to change our symbols. We need to stop oppressing ourselves and our children.
I agree.
We need to give each other the keys to getting out of this brainwashing. You know what I mean? Seriously, straight up.
To be honest, I heard and I knew about the case, but until just now, from what I've read, I really didn't know about it. They blatantly hunted him.
They hunted him and killed him.
Yeah, that's.
But yo, you see the reaction that we have. They do this. They keep do. It's so traumatizing. They just keep doing this over and over. Like it hasn't stopped. Like,
speaking about that, did you heard about the hanging in Central Park?
Nah,
that they ruled a suicide.
I think I heard that was a while ago.
But within this month.
Oh, nah, then I didn't hear about it. I didn't even hear about that.
That's crazy because they ruled it a suicide. So it's like, all right, but we're not even going to give coverage on that.
In Central Park, son?
Exactly. And who goes and hang themselves by the Alice in Wonderland monument by the brick side?
I can't. I ain't even hear about that. That's...
No, yeah.
That's white supremacist activity.
How I know it's crazy too, because it was a black person that did it.
Right.
So, like, suicide, bro?
Yeah. It's rigged, man. It's, you know what I mean? People have too much faith in the system. The way I feel about it, look, man, they got arrested, but this happened back in February, and the only reason any action was taken was because footage leaked. If the footage didn't leak, no action would have been taken because this guy's an ex-cop or whatever, and a citizen or whatever the case, you know what I mean? Whatever they want to say. So now they're arrested. Personally, I feel like it's like heads or tails, whatever. Like, they'll do the time, they won't do the time. I know at the end of the day, here's one thing I know for sure. They're not going to get what they deserve. They're not going to get murdered. They're not going to get the time they should get. And they just might get off completely. Somewhere in that area of unfairness to the victim and his family. You know what I mean? They're not going to get what they deserve. They don't deserve to be living after something like that. It's a heinous crime, period. And here's the thing. I have no shame in saying that. And me even having to say this, but it's like some people are still so stuck in whatever. I'm not. But if somebody black, like, hunted and killed another black person, I really feel like older black women, a lot of black people who want to be down with white people, they'd be saying, you know, he deserves to die or whatever, you know what I mean? Because they feel righteous saying that somebody who commits the heinous act of murder deserves to be killed, deserves to spend the rest of his life in jail, should never. But once you start voicing that in regards to white people, I think a lot of our people have this issue where now all of a sudden what's righteous is to be merciful. What's righteous is to look on, to be positive. What's righteous is to look on the bright side. You know what I mean? Like, people just try to dismantle hatred by calling it hatred. I don't think there's anything wrong with hatred. I think that if you don't have hatred, you're not alive, because there's such thing as righteous indignation. Like we were talking about anger earlier, there's a such thing as justified anger. You and I are always having conversations about race, and some people would tell us that we're overly racial and things like that, but we understand that it's in reaction to the environment. We're not having these conversations recreationally. Wait, what?
I said to what we see, what we feel, what we're dealt,
what we're experiencing.
All right.
So these conversations that we have are not recreational activity. They're not fan fiction. We're not servicing each other with scenarios that aren't actually happening. You know what I mean? It's not something that we're making up. So if people see us as overly racial, then that's just a matter of their perspective and how they want us to conform and go along to get along. But I'm not really into all that. You know what I mean? I'm not into pretending that things don't deserve a wrathful reaction when they do.
On top of that, if things were to play out the way it should, then they should get the death penalty.
Yeah.
There's still
Of
a
course.
capital punishment penalty in Georgia, so they technically should get it for that crime.
The only thing that will resemble justice is if they got the death penalty and they were put to death by the state of Georgia. If they were to do that, that would be the only thing that could possibly happen that would surprise me. Nothing else could surprise me. That would be the only thing that could happen that would surprise me. The only thing.
And a message that, this kind of shit is not going to stand. We're not going to stand for this kind of shit.
Right. Exactly. But look, man, that's not going to happen. I'm just, you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And people are too dependent. Like, people just, I don't know, like, Trayvon Martin was killed. Zimmerman is still alive. You know what I mean? His father's being taunted and things like that.
That, bro. In Florida. You trying to tell me Florida niggas is that pussy, bro?
You know what I'm saying? So it's like nobody's popping. So I don't know. Nobody's shooting them, but they shooting each other to this day. You know what I mean? But Zimmerman still draws breath. So the way I feel is that Black lives won't matter until we put some value behind it. We put some muscle to it. You know what I mean? The photo ops and all that is not going to change anything. I'm not into that movement because the movement is not, I'm not into a movement until I see some Black Panthers type activities, something radical, some actual change. Because rhetoric is nice, but it's a sign of the times. It's another level of conformity.
Rhetoric is nice only when,
and by nice, I mean there's nothing cute about it, but
no, I was gonna say it's only nice or applicable to the individual that is given that same retort. If it's not, then we gotta show the same kindness that these people know, and that's violence.
Exactly. That's the situation.
We don't know anything else but that.
That's the situation we're in. It's a critical condition that we're in. You know what I mean? So the time for, I don't know, ambiguity, and I just feel like there's only one response to something like this. So until I see that, it's just whatever. You know what I mean? The media is telling me this, I'm supposed to react in this. That's why, you know what I mean? People ask me how I'm doing. Usually I'll either say I'm okay or I'll say I'm maintaining or something like that. Because I know that I'm still in captivity in this country. I know that it's hunting season all the time. And it ain't fashionable. It's not cool. You know what I mean? It's disgusting. It's not even something to boast about. It's gross. And it just makes me sick. And I just want to see more action. I'm tired of You know what I mean? I'm tired of people dying and there being no retribution. You know what I mean? So it's almost like their death is in vain. You know, you got people's parents who are just taught to sit like good citizens in court, hoping and praying that the judge gives them a favorable verdict or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, please, I hope he does time. Man, listen, there comes a certain point that's not even, nah. Like, you destroyed that father's son. You destroyed that mother's child.
25 years of age, bro. You and I both outlived them, bro.
Yeah, he's dead. He's dead. So, you know, that's supposed to mean something, you know. It ain't supposed to keep happening. But we just keep letting people slide with killing us. And nobody wants to look at it that way because nobody wants to look at it that way. But that's the way it is. We letting people slide with killing us. That's what's going on. Nothing else. It's not a miscarriage of justice. Because now you're worried about what those people doing, but what you doing. You letting them slide with killing us. That's it. Pointing the finger at what they doing, expecting something out of them. You know that's like, fool me once, shame on you. Like, how many times you gotta get fooled? I don't know. So it's just very frustrating, and I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I don't feel any other way about it but that retaliation is the only response. Anything else is not addressing the issue.
So, when you were, this is all hypothetical and whatnot. Say you were like the Migos, one of them, and you heard this happen in your area, your backyard. What would you do?
The Migos?
Yeah, they're from Atlanta. So I'm saying it happened in Georgia, so I'm just using them as a reference.
If I was the Migos?
One of them.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Better, yeah, if you were famous and it happened in your home state.
If
back
you're asking me, so let me think about an answer. If I was famous and somebody got killed in my home state,
viciously, like this current case.
Alright, if I was,
and you have a choice between your money, your legacy, your fans, depending on what you do.
Sacrifice, right?
Or you do the right thing.
Nah, I'd sacrifice. I'd always sacrifice. So no matter what the situation is, if I got a platform, I think using a platform only works if you speak from the heart. If you water it down in any other way, worried about, you could twist it up when you talk to people like, oh, I'm being strategic, you know what I mean? I'm wording it this way, so it'll come out that way. And, I could get a bigger platform, I don't want to burn my bridge or whatever. I feel like once you get a platform, that's, you know what I mean? I feel like once you get a platform,
it should be used for the means of good.
You're obligated to speak the truth. I don't think that you get on a platform and then you play the game so that they could get you to another platform because you're worried about losing your platform. That's a slave mentality. That's huh?
Platform, the movie?
Platform? Nah.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Nah. Platform, nah.
When you get a chance, watch it. It's exactly what we touched on. People at the top not worrying about the bottom, trying to
Word.
be in a prison system.
That's what's called a scarcity mentality. Like, if I blow this, if I blow my shot here, they're never gonna let me. Listen, man. It's too much of that going on. Too much scarcity mentality is why we live in poverty. It's why we just are content with existing as third class, second class citizens. We got to get out of that. We got to stop deciding that we're not, you know what I mean, that we don't manifest our own reality. We gotta stop giving our power. We gotta stop emboldening people with our concept of power. We have a concept of power and we just attribute it. We project it on other people. And we need to stop doing that because then that's what reality is. That's what it becomes. We need to hearken to some of these stories of these David and Goliath stories, man. And stop looking at, oh, the military and oh, this and that. We can't fight. We'll lose. Like, we got to stop that loser mentality. Otherwise, we don't even fight. We lose before we even start with that mentality.
You touched on a great point earlier where you said that you feel that the forces of nature or the universe will come to your aid if it's just, you didn't say it like that, but paraphrase it.
Yeah,
if it's
spirit, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I agree with that sentiment. It's all about having the courage and the willpower to bypass fear.
Exactly. Like fear is a force, a nature, but so is courage. You know what I mean? There's certain qualities of humanness that we have that are given shape by the universe. You know what I mean? So it's like our fear manifests in a reality, in our perception of reality in a certain way. And so does our courage. So if you have courage instead of fear, then all these forces that you think are working against you will conspire to work alongside you. You know what I mean? That's the power of courage. Courage is what shifts the tide, not fear, not living, you know what I mean, timidly and being afraid to speak your mind or being afraid to be free, basically. Like being afraid of the concept of you being free. It's just, to me, that makes me sick. It makes me so sick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some people find hope in just nestling in their captivity and things like, oh, if I be a good worker, if I be a good this to them, if I show my value to them in this way, you know what I mean? Meanwhile, the war is on. Like, these are not your people, man. It's been demonstrated continuously for hundreds of years that these are not your people. You know what I mean? Every time you think you're being slick, they're looking at you and they know that you're not them and they're adapting automatically. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard to understand. They're not 20 levels above you or 20. They're right there with you, but they're watching you trying to ingratiate yourself, and that gives them an advantage over you. You're giving them an advantage over you. People don't even realize that. They just are overwhelmed by the concept of history. They're overwhelmed by the concept of slave ships. They're overwhelmed by the concept of yokes of iron and atomic bombs. They're overwhelmed by these concepts of airplanes and all these things that they attribute to these people, and they say that these people are better than them. Don't be overwhelmed. Use it against them. Use your imagination. Get out of that.
The thing is, we've tried many times in the past, well, not in the near past, but very distant, and the way they defeated us based on us trying to overpower and accomplish something was they would pressure one of us, pressure us or threaten us that, oh, they're going to kill our family, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and then they infiltrate, and then they destroy the whole organization and cripple it. So it's like, yeah, we do gotta do better and do gotta bypass fear, but sometimes it's like, damn.
I know, but we gotta take a step and then we cross certain bridges when we get to them. But we don't even want to start that adventure of emancipation. Like that whole adventure in your life, you're gonna suffer loss, you're gonna suffer all types of trauma regardless. So your life is an adventure in a way. You know what I mean? It's an adventure that you largely don't choose. You could choose an entirely different adventure. You know what I mean? Where you're dying for the right reasons instead of dying for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
So that's up to you. You know what I mean? It's not like you choose one path and now you're perpetually happy and you're immortal or something like that. Some magical thing like that. It's not like that. It's just about what qualities do you embody when you're going on this path? What do you stand for when you're going on this path? Because I don't know, if somebody threatens you, then honestly, that should be more of a call to arms. You should be more enraged by that when your enemy is threatening you. And there's time for strategy and all that. All that. We have all types of strategic minds, all types of intelligent people. But unfortunately, our main problem isn't that we're strategic, it's that we're afraid. So before we can utilize strategic people, before we can utilize people, healers and things like that, we have to embolden people. People have to be bold enough to do certain things. They need courage first. Courage is more valuable to me than knowledge and whatever else. Courage. And then you embark and then you take your first step and then you realize, okay, this is what I can expect. This is what they'll try to do. And then you can strategize from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
About,
nah, go ahead.
No, earlier when we were talking about how we would try to go for the white man's idea of achievement or the white man's respectability or whatnot, rather than we going for our own people or we going for humanity's sake. You get what I'm saying?
I'm getting it, yeah.
The reason I'm saying this is to say that I saw a post where this black dude, he became what was it, Princeton's first black valedictorian since 200 years ago, whatever, something along the lines of that. So that had me thinking, like, you could have went anywhere based on how it sounded. You could have went anywhere, did anything, but you wanted to go just to the so-called prestigious white man so-called college.
Yep.
For what? To just so you get what I'm saying?
No, I do get what you're saying, but a lot of people don't get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying, though, but I'm also thinking about how a lot of people won't get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying, though.
Well, what I'm really saying is that you could have did better elsewhere with less restrictions, with less obstacles. You could have did better elsewhere, but you chose to go this route because you had a false notion that this would give you a brighter scope of things.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with people going to, Ivy League schools. I have a problem with that. But I see what you're saying at the same time. But it depends on what he does with his degree. But I don't know. Like, if he went to Princeton, he's probably been conditioned to be a Princeton boy. So, he's probably going to do things that favor people on that level. He's probably not going to go to the hood and help anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Well, that's assuming he's from the hood. Let's not assume. I don't know. He's black.
Nah, more likely than not, that's exactly how it is. They become so indoctrinated with the culture that they fail to see anything else but that culture. That's the same with police officers. You can bring up a dude from the hood and you think he would remember what the hood was, but since he was so indoctrinated in blue, now he violating his own kind.
Nah, no doubt. Violated, yeah.
Co-worker happy.
Yeah, to get that brotherhood from from his master, man. That's a word we haven't used for some years. Yeah, his master.
Yeah, master, exactly.
Yep. So it's a mental bondage. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mental bondage people are in. So, as far as Trayvon Martin goes, here's my thing, right? Trayvon Martin is dead. What's that young man's name? Arbery? Ahmaud Arbery is dead, right? So their spirit is no longer, tethered to this plane. So I feel like if you just look at these young men, the circumstances, the circumstances around why they're no longer with us, if you're being honest and fair, I think that you should look at them and say that they deserve to be avenged. Not that they deserve the United States to go through the formality of a trial and then letting people off scot-free. At the end of the day, they deserve to be avenged. I think that if you're looking at it honestly, if certain people could come back to life, they'd be very angry and hurt by what happened when they were forced to depart.
Yep.
I think that Trayvon Martin would have every right to be angry and hurt and disappointed. And Ahmaud Arbery would have every right to be angry, hurt, and disappointed. You know what I mean? Even though, well, I'm speaking that his trial hasn't even come yet, but I feel like these people deserve to be avenged. And we have too many ideas that are disseminated, we don't even know how, of what it means to be a good black person. You know what I mean? Like, you can't think certain ways. And I was talking about that earlier with just the way that it's okay to think in terms of how it's okay for black people to do wrong to other black people. Not even okay, but it's acceptable. But it's unacceptable to think of Caucasian people in a certain negative aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that gives them a sense of bravery. You got people that would never walk into a certain store in the 90s and early 2000s and act like they're familiar with that area and place. Now we have the blatant guard.
It's been set up where now they can make themselves at home. Brooklyn is gentrified. Where I grew up is gentrified like crazy. You know what I mean? So it breaks my heart because I grew up in a reality.
I've seen a family of roughly three or four whites, and they like the sound of music on their bikes, flying down the bike lane in East New York, Fountain Avenue.
You know what I mean?
Bro, I'm like, bro, just last year in Cypress side, they were shooting and wilding out. And now you're trying to tell me a year later.
That's a major problem. And I think that we need to articulate why that's a problem for the people. They don't see why that's a problem. I think it's a problem because any fight, any bite that these so-called hoods had to them, it's gone. Or it's reserved solely for people who look like us.
Let me not you ever heard of canoeing in Brooklyn? Brooklyn Waters, canoeing.
Never.
Yes, Charlie Chisholm starting it was supposed to be this year, but it's going to get canceled, I think. They're going to have canoeing on that waterfront.
What waterfront?
By Charlie Chisholm Park.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Exactly, bro.
That's whatever.
Now that's cool and all, but I'm just showing you where the area and direction.
Where's Shirley Chisholm at? That's in East New York?
Yeah, East New York.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah.
Linden side, and then you go down Fountain.
Yeah, okay. I know where that is then. Canoeing.
Exactly. When I saw that, I was like, yo, that's crazy.
So it's like, it's like all these abominations. Like, when I was growing up, bro, I witnessed a lot of abominations. My reality, outside of my home life, I thank God for my family structure. Very powerful, very impactful. But outside, literally outside of those four walls, in the building that, the apartment in the building I used to live in, it was chaos. There were abominations abound, you know what I mean? But it was reality. But now that we have Caucasians in the mix, it's like the abomination is something that can't be realized. It's like, God forbid there be any abominations. God forbid you sell drugs. God forbid you kill this Caucasian person. So what I'm doing now by saying this, it's not me voicing a desire for white people to be killed. It's me upset and angry that there was all this death, all this violence that seemed insurmountable when I was growing up. And then in the light of these Caucasian people coming through, the sudden realization that it was self-hatred this whole time among our people. It was a curse afflicted upon our people this whole time. It wasn't, it was just, it was reserved solely for us. It was self-cannibalization. But once they come in, these people, now it's like your fangs, you're defanged, you're declawed. You know what I mean? And I know there was an entire process to get to this point. I know these people wouldn't have survived in the 90s, wouldn't have survived in the 2000s. And now that you have OGs in prison and things like that, you have, you know what I mean, is really falling apart in terms of the gangster life, the gang life and things like that in hoods all over the country. So I know that, you know what I mean, it was set up in a way where they could be comfortable around us. But that's why when I see people claiming to be thugs and gangsters and all that and acting wild, it's like, would you do that in front of a white person? No. So just knock it off. You know what I mean? Would you be acting this way to a, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. You're scared.
Exactly.
You're scared. So I'm not trying to hear any of that because it's an insult. It's a slap in the face to the reality that I'm familiar with. That was, you know what I mean, that my parents did their best to shield me from. And they did a very good job of shielding me from, but I was still cognizant of when I was growing up. So I'm not into all that. It's very, very, you know what I mean? It's very disheartening, very depressing. But I really feel like there are things that don't get spoken about in terms of what it means to be successful in Black. And we don't talk about how we need to raise soldiers and warriors and generals. We don't do any of that. We're just into raising good employees, and it's multifaceted. It's a lot of things that we can get into, but I really don't feel like getting into all that. Rest in peace to Ahmaud Arbery. Trayvon Martin, and I don't know. I'm not. Look, I don't really look into it that much. I didn't even look into Ahmaud Arbery like that, but I don't want to be disrespectful, but you know, another Black person was shot by the police. Rest in peace to him too. Rest in peace, man. And one day you will be avenged. You know
One day, definitely.
So
that's a given right there.
That's
like
a given.
I said, my quote, like I say, you know, if life don't get you, that will.
You know what? And that's the truth. Like, people gonna have to pay for their actions just the same way you are, just the same way I am. So at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff I really believe is not to say it's not worth agonizing over, but it's not necessary to agonize over because trust me, like, you gonna get checks at the end of your life anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, you know, you could get props from these corny white judges. Like, that don't mean nothing. Like, you gonna get yours, so it don't even matter. But just the way that we celebrate, it's depressing, man. So, anyway, what's up with these hornets that's coming to that's all over Washington D.C. and stuff like that? You know anything about that?
Not too much, but what I do know is that a group of them, just like regular hornets, will kill a person. So, you know,
swarm up and kill somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't that how it is with regular hornets anyway? Like, I don't want to get stung by two hornets. Like, I might not get stung by two American hornets.
After you reach a certain threshold of the amount of them, eventually it will kill you, just like with regular hornets.
Oh, of course, yeah, they carry venom. Same with bees. A bunch of bees will kill you. You ever saw that movie, My Girl?
Of course, one of my favorites.
Nah, I didn't say all that. You said that, but he got killed. He got killed by the bee stings. Who was that? Macaulay Culkin, right? He got killed by the bees.
I remember that movie because I seen it at a young age, and it really affected me watching a kid die like that. So
Yeah, that was
That's why-
impactful. Yeah.
it was so
Yeah. Nah, yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So it just stained your brain. I got you. Me too, a little bit. So yeah, a bunch of bees could kill you. A bunch of hornets could kill you. But I don't know. Like you said, you saw footage. I never saw footage of like they killed a whole. What footage did you see?
National Geographic.
What was it though? Like what happened in the
was-
footage?
It was the hornets attacking a beehive, killing all the
It was one hornet.
larvae. Yeah, one. Yeah, actually.
So
But they're about 1.5 inches big. So it flew in, and then not all bees do this. They would swarm up and make a ball.
right to overheat it, right?
Yeah.
They
make
can't
it
do that
burn
with
up
this?
inside. Nah, the
Oh.
American bees are soft. They ain't about that life.
What you mean? Why, wait, they're not swarming it?
Nah, they're not. For some reason, it didn't reach their genetics yet.
Wow.
So they don't ball up and swarm up like that.
Because while you were mentioning, I remember that footage I saw of when the bees killed the wasp or the hornet or whatever, and they just, I think they're like a tenth of a degree or a degree they can withstand more than the hornet, so they swarm it up until the
Yup.
point that they cook it without killing
Yup.
themselves. They can't do that with these. Oh man.
Nope, the eastern bees, from what they said, they don't do that technique.
Wow, son.
I don't know. They live in that eastern life, making them feel good.
What you mean Eastern bees? What, in the East Coast of the United States?
Well, remember they divide them with western and eastern sections, and the western portion, the eastern portion,
I got you.
they said
So those
Yeah,
were
they don't do
Eastern
that.
bees. Wait. Oh, in the United States, right?
yeah, the United States.
So that was in the West where they were doing the swarm thing?
Yeah, the
Oh.
Asian, whatever it's called.
Yo, honeybees need to chill out. They need to stop going extinct. They just...
But from what the guy said, because he does sting tests, and he said the bite of the killer wasp is comparable to a bullet ant, and I've got bit by a bullet ant.
Ooh, sheesh.
So and I remember the tip, because I got on my index finger,
What is a
and
bullet
the
ant?
tip of that,
Where you find what? Where'd you find that? A bullet ant?
South America,
A
Guyana.
bullet ant? Nah, son.
bullet ant.
Oh,
Yeah.
nah.
When you pick
Nah.
them up close to your ears, you can hear their pincers chomping.
Yikes. Nah, son.
It go, it's crazy.
Ah,
But
nah.
anyway, the stingers, it
Ah.
left my tip of my
Oof.
index numb for like 5 days.
Wow. I got stung
It's
by a
crazy.
bee once when I was like maybe 5 years old behind my ear, my right ear. Oh my God, that hurt. So that was the only time I ever got stung by a bee.
I
Um,
had it worse once, bro. I
Jeez.
went picking a fight and I got what I asked for.
You picked the fight with a bee.
Not a bee, a wasp nest.
Oh.
And I threw a couple rocks.
Oh, nah.
And I was directly under it.
Oh, no. Why would you? How old were you?
I was like 10.
Oh, nah. So why would you do something like that?
Bro, they came down like they came down like they were the police, bro.
Yeah. Oh, nah, son.
So
Why,
here I am swatting and fanning away.
why would you do that, son?
So they bit me. They didn't catch my face. They
Yo,
bit
they
my
jumped you, son.
They bit my elbow side
Oof.
and my 2 arms and my elbow. So those were swollen like a couple.
What kind of sounds were you making?
I think I was yelling and screaming.
I'm dying. I'm dying.
You can't mess with those kind of thugs, bro. Those thugs.
I would never do that, son. I would just avoid a nest of any kind, an insect, bee,
Well,
hive.
if you you ask anybody that
Wow,
knew
son.
me when I was younger, I was a wild kid, bro.
I was not
I
into that.
I used to get hung up on barbed wire fences, kind of wild.
Oh boy. Used
No
to
lie, no.
used to get into fights and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Yes, according to you. Dumb
Yup.
fights.
It's crazy. Good times. Though.
Good times when you look back, yeah.
Yup. Speaking about that, I have a song that's called Home. Eventually I'll send it to you, but it's basically one of those feel-good songs.
Okay. Is it?
It's
Could
my home.
can I expect it to play at the end of the next Fast and the Furious movie?
Why not?
Ah! I would die in my seat. Like, I'd be a corpse, rigor mortis in my seat, son. Like, people would be leaving the theater, and I'd just be sitting there until the next round of people they wouldn't notice I was dead for about 2 days, son. I'd just be dead, son. Like, nah, son. If I'm watching Fast and Furious 9 and Home comes on, you and Wiz Khalifa, son, I'm dead. I'ma die. I'ma die.
And then the remix.
Well, who on the remix?
Will
Pitbull?
Allen on the remix.
With me on the remix. Son, you Pitbull and Wiz Khalifa, son.
Oh, man.
Nah, I'd die. Oh, now I gotta hear the song, though. I gotta hear it.
No doubt, no doubt.
Alright, with that, we gonna close out.
Alright.
Alright? Everybody stay safe. Peace. Until next week.
Peace.
Charlie, you can't take that risk.
No llores, vato.
Affiliates.
Alright, but this time we gotta go down Brooklyn and Whittier.
Home is what you make it. You can build and replace it. They can never really take it. Just as your soul is in it. We die when cease the living. So make the most. Celebrate with a toast for the simplest. Not a minimalist. I thank fate with a kiss. Destiny is ever bliss. When I reminisce, I put a feel to it. Home is what you do to it. If you have each other, then you're too lucid. Not on a trip. They're building blocks for home before kids. Home is what is in us. This is for beginners. The woke listeners. A spoken quote to whoever hearing us. Home is what you hear before the whispers. Before the spread your name with means that is sinister. That's the negativity outside of a home. If you're alive, then it's home. As long as your pride doesn't fall. What is home? Home is blessed, never suppressed. More or less, I'm simply dishing. Home is a place of freeing inhibitions. Plant seeds for the future. Watch it grow well and proper. What is home? It's life when it matters. Crew.